Coming up on today's Airborne, Russian security service stops world record global flight completion. 7 aviation groups urge rapid review of aeromedical reform. And longeron cracks ground 82 F-16D airplanes. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Flying a gyrocopter around the world is certainly a challenge, but it got worse when the Russians said "niet." An attempt to fly the first gyrocopter around the world by Norman Surplus has been foiled after traveling thousands of miles, flying consecutively through 18 of the 24 countries needed to achieve this Fédération Aéronautique International world record circumnavigation. The attempt was ended after the Russian Federal Security Bureau refused to respond to requests from that country's Civil Aviation Authority. The Russian CAA cannot issue the required flight permission to fly through their airspace without FSB input. Surplus said, quote, "The reason for the continued and consistent lack of any FSB response is baffling, and it's extremely frustrating for our whole team and also for our many supporters that have closely followed the flight so far," end quote. Let's see. A government agency that refuses to respond. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? 7 GA groups have sent a letter to the U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx, urging him to complete the review of the FAA's NPRM regarding third-class medical certification reform within the next 30 days and then open it to public comment. In the letter, which was dated August 15th, the GA consortium said that the, quote, "general aviation community is enthusiastic to see the long overdue reform move ahead," end quote. The letter also noted that the GA community has waited more than 2.5 years for a response to the third-class medical certification exemption request, which was made by the EAA and others back in March of 2012. EAA's chairman, Jack Pelton, said in part, quote, "As we stated publicly and to the FAA administrator just 2 weeks ago at Oshkosh, the aviation community has been waiting for an action on this measure. No other issues come close in importance to GA pilots," end quote. When we come back after the break, longeron cracks ground 82 F-16D airplanes. You're watching Airborne. Stay tuned.
ADS-B will be mandatory for most aircraft by 2020 in the United States, but you can benefit from ADS-B today with the Bendix King KT-74 Mode S transponder. The KT-74 meets the global mandates for ADS-B out when attached to a suitable WAAS GPS. Over the past 2 decades, no resource has compiled as much expert-valued information about the sport plane world than the Sport Plane Resource Guide. Over 1,500 pages, hundreds of aircraft, dozens of how-tos and directories. All this and more will be coming to the sport aviation world soon with the new, all-electronic and updatable Sport Plane Resource Guide for your iPad, iPhone, Kindle, tablet, PC, or other electronic devices. Get your order in now. www.sportplane.com.
Welcome back. Do you have a story suggestion for Airborne, Aero-TV, or website, or a podcast? Well, if you do, remember to send an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. U.S. Air Force officials recently removed 82 two-seat F-16D Fighting Falcons from flight status. This is due to the discovery of canopy sill longeron cracks found between the front and rear pilot seats. The cracks were discovered following an immediate action time compliance technical order, or TCTO, to inspect all F-16Ds due to initial structural cracks which were discovered during post-mission flight inspections. As of August 18th, all 157 F-16Ds have been inspected. 82 were found to have cracks, and the remaining 75 aircraft have been returned to flight status. Other F-16 variants were not affected. The Air Force is working with its F-16D operational units to mitigate the impact on operations, training, and readiness. Program flying training and F-16 pilot graduation impacts will depend on the number and timing of aircraft returned to service. It's Friday at last and time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary. This week, Jim remembers one of the most important people in his life, 5 years after her loss at the World Aerobatic Championships. Here's this week's barnstorming.
Thanks, Ashley. Hi, folks. I have been trying for quite a while now to try to tell a story, if you will, a remembrance, something respectful, not too sad, a little bit funny, certainly inspiring, about the person in my life who up till 5 years ago was the most pivotal of my memory. I speak specifically of Vicki Cruse, who to many of you was my partner at U.S. Aviator Magazine, the Sport Plane Resource Guide, and so many of my other activities. And to many others, the president of the International Aerobatic Club, a U.S. aerobatic team member, a competitor at competitions all over the country, a champion at so many of them. And of course, somebody who was a pivotal member of the United States aerobatic team when she was lost at the 2009 World Aerobatic Championships in the UK. Trying to encapsulate an extraordinary human being like her in words is trying to capture lightning in a bottle. It just doesn't happen. She was tiny, barely 5 foot tall, proof positive that dynamite came in small packages, but her size belied her power. She spent a fair amount of her life with people around her telling her that she couldn't do things, couldn't accomplish things, and when I met her, she was a brand new private pilot, a little afraid of aviation, not entirely confident, but over a period of time as she got more involved, became inspired by the community and the world around her. She went on to far greater things, became inspired by the people around her, and thereby became an inspiration to us all. This was an extraordinary human being. She changed my life in ways I can't possibly tell you. Even now, it's very hard to explain. Not only am I a different human being, but a better one because of her. And I hope all of you have people like that in your lives, or people like that to look up to. But in the cool green grass of Oshkosh in 2009, just days before her passing, we had a chance to chat in ways we hadn't in a long time. It was very personal. It was very sweet. Often funny, a little sad. It was the last chance I had to tell her how much I loved her and how much I loved having her in my life. And we talked of the future in an industry that at some point could get better, could empower people, could make people better than they would otherwise be, because aviation does that to people. And we both talked a little bit about how we might make that happen. And then she was gone in a flash. A few seconds after the discovery of a mechanical problem in her aircraft, at a point when she could not possibly recover, she was gone. The world lost an extraordinary human being, and heaven gained an angel. And what I have left is this. I've gotten past the grief. I am firmly ensconced in the joy of who she was, the memories I have, and the things that we did together. And firmly, absolutely dedicated to the vision that this community, this industry, this business, this avocation, this recreation is something that can change the world, change people for the better. And because of her, and because of people like her, and because of all the things that I believe in, this is my mission from here on out, in memory of this extraordinary little girl, and others like her, and all of us who loved her so, so very much. 5 years. They go by in a flash, but the memories, they live forever. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne and Aero-TV, I'm Jim Campbell.
The FAA has extended a TFR, which was initially put in place over Ferguson, Missouri on August 12th, following the shooting of a black teenager by a white police officer. The TFR is now in effect until August 25th at 2000 UTC. It is centered on the St. Louis Vortac 129-degree radial at 11 nautical miles and extends out 3 nautical miles. The TFR includes all airspace from the surface up to and including 3,000 feet MSL. The FAA said the TFR was put in place to, quote, provide a safe environment for law enforcement activities, end quote. No pilots may operate an aircraft in the areas covered by this NOTAM except for relief aircraft operations under direction of the state of Missouri. The circumstances causing this TFR are rapidly changing, so as always, pilots are advised to check NOTAMs before flights for any updates. Airborne is brought to you by some of the best sponsors in the aviation business. We'll be right back after these messages with more news.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird X-Wind SE and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulation.com.
Welcome back. Paul Rimde, the owner of Cumulus Soaring Incorporated, is renowned for his support of the sport of soaring. However, his company is facing financial hurdles and he's looking for help. Rimde said on his website in part, quote, "I love my job. I enjoy supporting the soaring community and helping soaring pilots. But I've come to a crossroads in my life and business and I need your help to be able to continue." Looking for a way to reduce his business debt, Rimde is offering a plan that he calls mutual support memberships. The mutual support memberships are being offered at various costs to provide different levels of service. Rimde says, quote, "I call them mutual because I need your support, and I offer you my support in the form of discounts and free technical support," end quote. The Cumulus Soaring Incorporated website includes complete details of the support memberships and a status update as to how the plan is progressing. He'll be making the go or no-go decision on September 1st. Aerospace startup Rockzip High Balloons has raised over 30% of its $15,000 goal from 125 crowdfunding backers to commercialize its first model of high balloons, which will be commissioned as floating space satellites. According to a company news release, a high balloon is a big balloon that floats to the edge of space. These balloons can often reach over 120,000 feet in altitude. A high balloon, sometimes referred to as a poor man's satellite, is considered the most inexpensive way to reach and remain in near space. Rockzip anticipates that its high balloons will be flown by students and entrepreneurs alike, creating diverse applications, including providing internet access to remote parts of the world, testing rocket components, and clocking wind conditions inside giant hurricanes. Well, that's our program. Remember to get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember, Airborne is streamed 3 times a week and is always online. Join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for a new edition. And stay tuned because we have some big news on upgrades and changes that are coming soon to Airborne. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.